Hi, how's it going? Today is the Sunday, the 15th of March. Right now, the time is at it's 5:45 p.m. This morning, I had one of those moments where something suddenly clicks, and you realize that the answer was sitting there all the time. I was out there on at my farm. I was sitting in the middle of the field. I like to just find a spot every morning and just randomly just plop onto the ground with my mug of coffee first thing in the morning with my dog. And I was just sitting there and I was just starting to feel the breeze and then just looking into the distance on all the wind turbines that is across my farm. They're just very gradually spinning around this morning. And then uh, just for context, like they're putting up 125 or so wind turbines where my farm is at, and I see it since the first pole was up, and then each blade, I observe it since last year and possibly the year before last year as well. And then it slowly started to feel the horizons, and it actually feels the space uh, quite gradually. And then you can see the blades actually spin at different intensity throughout the day every time it's there. Now, I've been thinking a lot about interaction design lately and about how almost every digital system that we build uh, has an assumption where there is a human user in the loop. So the breakdown would be there will always be a human interaction that engages with the user interface. And then from the user interface, by a click, by a scroll, by voice control, the human interaction would then lead to an output. And then perhaps a different way to do that these days is as well, you have human interaction and then possibly AI. So you have uh, uh, AI agents, for example, then interacting with the user interface and then generating an output. So the whole field is essentially built around the idea that a person sits in front of a screen and it actually drives the interface. Now, the morning struck me that the interaction agent doesn't have to actually be human at all. Um, Out here, so back to the first point, out here on the farm, the wind is a constant. You see it long before you feel it. It moves around, it moves along the grass, it pushes through the trees, it just shifts things quietly. It's this invisible presence that it can't be seen, but nonetheless it's always there. It's always there interacting with land. You don't see it, it's invisible, it's an invisible force, but it's always there at different intensity. Wind is an interesting thing because it's a force. It could be very calm, it could be quite moderate, it could come very intense, it could very strong. It just oscillates throughout the entire day as this ambient, invisible presence um, that is just there, that we don't actually see, but we actually feel. And we have no control against it as humans. We have no control against it uh, because it's just a force uh, to be there the whole time. So, and that I don't mean that metaphorically. I actually mean that literally, because it's already interacting with the physical world all along, wind as an element. So the question then emerged. Then I was looking at the turbines and I was thinking that what if the wind itself, right? So what if the wind itself actually operated the interface? And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean that literally. So instead of a person actually interacting with the user interface, scrolling, clicking, manipulating text, generating an image, or even AI, uh, what 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 could happen if actually the wind is actually the agents, not the humans, but the wind is actually the agents that actually interact with the interface, and then the system is actually what it translates that interaction by the wind as the interaction. So it's actually more than human interaction design. So the wind, I'm talking wind speed, direction, changes, gusts as well. Uh, those become the direct input by the elements of weather that interacts with the system, the interface, and then generates an output. So the interface responds to the forces, and then the wind becomes the one engaging and touching the system. What I like about this is it removes it removes the two things that we usually take for granted. First of all, it takes the human out of the interaction loop. Uh, so that's the common assumption, that the assumption is that interaction design is for humans, right? So it's for humans to engage, to generate something, and we would remove all the frictions as much as possible to make sure that it's as seamless. But maybe humans don't have to be in the loop. Uh, and then the second part of it is as well, it takes the generative AI out of the loop as well, because as you know, the current dominant discourse is that uh, generative AI is in turn replacing humans in the loop as part of that interactive system or interaction systems engaging with the interface. You have like things like OpenClaw, for example, and all the AI agents that is trending right now, where it's supposed to actually make us a lot more efficient to replace human and actually create an interaction. But what if we actually remove those two elements deliberately and intentionally out of the loop? So the text, in turn, is not produced by a prompt or an AI model or an algorithm trying to imitate the human language, but instead, what if the output is shaped by environmental conditions, in this case, the wind? Uh, it acts as the operator of the system. So the interface that I'm experimenting is intentionally simple. This led me to something extremely simple. I was thinking about visualization, but then that's not really interaction. That's really just translating uh, the forces of the wind into some like aesthetics. That's not what I want. I want the wind to be actually be the agent that drives the interaction. So it's going to be a browser-based. I was thinking of actually creating a browser-based, uh, text-based system. Basically, just text appearing and shifting, and words shifting and pacing itself, depending on what the wind is doing outside. So with different variables, calm air produces much slower, quieter, and intentional language with different pacing. And then strong winds, for example, pushes things a lot more forcefully. Even the language is more forceful. Just like a person's emotion, uh, frustration, impatience, anger, as opposed to someone speaking calmly, someone speaking intentionally, softly. Maybe the wind can actually generate that. So in a strange way, the wind actually becomes the writer. Not in the sense of intention of or authorship, but in the sense that the forces begin to shape the behavior of language inside the interface. So it's a very small step towards thinking uh, interaction design beyond the human, so the modern human design that I've been really grappling with. Uh, Always when I'm at the farm, I'm always thinking about how I could actually connect the two, the physical and the digital. My very digital uh, uh, work at the university in the city, and equally my very physical, very connected to the land part of me whenever I'm here on land. What's the connection in between? So I think I'm getting there. So so it's a small step towards thinking interaction design beyond the human, where the digital systems responds directly to the conditions of the world around them, rather than human actually shifting conditions. It's the environments that actually drives conditions around the systems. So that sent me to a spiral immediately that this morning, once I got my chickens and animals sorted out, then I immediately retreated into the shed and got to work right away. I then went ahead and started writing a script in Python, and then just basically start to set out the scene on like what are the conditions, what are the states, and what are the parameters that I want to set to enable the wind to be able to set the conditions of the, well, I guess not the conditions, but I guess the words. So the words, breaking it down into nouns and verbs. Uh, into that. So I spent several hours today on a Sunday, despite being out here in the farm. I'm to spend my whole weekend, like my whole Sunday here in the shed, and writing up the script. And I think I'm getting somewhere. It's to prototype the logic, the interaction logic, basically. Just starting with a very simple structure. So the win states map to different vocabularies and sentence rhythms. It's very early, but it's starting to unfold itself to something very interesting, where a system where the environment is the interaction agent. So I'll show you what I have of just to get started off, a bank of really very basic text, nouns and verbs, but I think I need to flesh this out a bit more later on, where I have words like grass, air, mist, and cloud and light. So that those bank of words or noun in the state would be associated with the state of the wind when it's calm. So I have parameters set on what conditions are there for calm, and then equally say for like a very strong wind conditions, and I've attached this to a set number. So things like branches, dust, and clouds and gates, or the verbs are very strong. It's pushes, drives, uh, and as well as rushes, etc. And then I also have different states as well, where I'm currently capturing just the wind speed as well as the wind direction. So, and then attaching a label to it, just very basic state, just calm, moderate, and strong. So that's what I've got so far in a day. I think I got a lot done today. Uh, and I think that will be a very interesting anchor on how things would go. I think that's a very interesting concept. And finally, I finally started to see like how this actually connects. Like this is something that I've been grappling for the past 6 years actually, since I got the farm. I actually kept things very separate. I always kept a very clear boundary. The work is work, digital is digital, and that's confined in the city. And then the farmer's farm is very physical. That's the time away from my digital work. But actually, no, actually there is a convergence, and equally a tension as well between the two. I think like this is the first step in actually connecting the both of it without trying to shoehorn it. But how could the physical and the digital convergence happen in a very elegant way, in a very meaningful, intentional way, rather than trying to force the two in between? Now, what I've also ordered yesterday a weather station kit, and that's got the rain gauge and then the wind direction. It's also could capture soil moisture and all of that, and that's an IoT kit, so that would be very easy to actually send data um, to a microcontroller. So I got the Arduino Uno Wi-Fi, so it's easier to actually just send it to the cloud on Arduino Cloud possibly. So that actually makes it a lot more straightforward in actually putting this together. But I can't wait for the devices to arrive. I think that's gonna take a while. There's gonna be a bit of lead time for it to get to my doorstep. But I figured I'd just get started with the prototyping on Python today. I got a lot done today. I think the basic concept is there, and then very basic prototype, very early prototype. It's kind of shaping up. I think that that's very interesting. So very early work now, but more to come, and really looking forward to see how this one comes along. So it's been quite a while since I actually had time and energy and space to actually put together something uh, and work on something that is more on like a creative project. Uh, because I've been so busy with more of the leadership work as well as the bigger research projects and all of that. So this is really quite exciting for me. Looking forward to see how this is going to shape up, but more updates to come.